What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader. And when I was a kid, I got really obsessed with sending movie stars and athletes either cards or plain pieces of paper or whatever. And I had like this address book with all their addresses, and I'd send them off and I'd say, hey, can you sign this for me? And I was probably 7 to 10 years old, somewhere in there. Well, one of them I sent to was Chevy Chase, the actor. And he sent me back a photograph, like one of those nice big glossy photographs. And it said, pre-signed just for you, Chevy Chase. Which I thought was hilarious, right? Because obviously he's pre-signing it for all of them. But this video is pre-made just for you because I'm going to be traveling and I want to put together some content for you guys for while I am gone. So we're going to take a look at the Clone Wars line of action figures from around 2008, 2009. We're going to look at action figures and, more importantly, the box sets, vehicles, things like that. In a different universe, I would have them all. I would have unlimited space and I would have all of these amazing Clone Wars items. It harkens back to an era when retail shelf space was not at the premium that it is today, because there's no way that this stuff would get made today. Let's go ahead and dig right in. The first one we've got, this was an awesome set of 8. I would love to have these so much. I love these animated style Cartoon Network Clone Wars figures, and this was the complete set of 8. This seller had 8. Let's see, no, he only had one lot, but they were all together. And I just love the way they look. There's something about them, especially the Dirge. I love the colors on that, the packaging, everything about it. Yoda, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu especially is really cool. I like him. Anakin, Asajj Ventress is another really cool one. You know, they're kind of like just cartoon style to them, and I just love the way they look. They're just such a great style. Count Dooku is another one. I love the way they look. Anyway, this lot of 8 sold at an auction. It was $179. Only one bid on them. So, plus $10 shipping. So let's call that about $190. I would pay that all day long. All day long. I just love the way they look. And I wish I had the space for them, man, because they are just such cool looking artistic figures. That Anakin, I love the pose of Anakin Skywalker there especially. Very, very cool figures. So that lot of 8 Cartoon Network Clone Wars figures, $190 shipped. Let's dig into a few action figures before we get into the meat and potatoes, the vehicles for the Clone Wars line. This one is the figure, the Ahsoka figure that includes Rhoda the Hutt. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know. I was looking at this as I talked, but is this like a Canadian version? Because it's got multi-language on there. I don't think the U.S. release has that multi-language on the front of the card back, but I am certainly not an expert. There's more multi-language on the bottom left there, and then on the back it also has some multi. I would guess that this is probably either a European release or for Canada. So it looks like it's Canada. Yeah, it's got Hasbro Canada. So this was the Canadian release for the Ahsoka with Rhoda the Hutt. And this one sold in an auction. Yeah, this was in Canada too. So there you go. This one sold in Canada at an auction for $188.50 Canadian dollars, which is $139 US dollars and change. So about $160 after accounting for shipping. But that's a really cool looking figure. Somebody, one of you guys, I don't know who it was, but one of y'all recently sent in a big batch of Clone Wars Ahsokas to be graded by CAS. And they looked really great inside the acrylic case. But I love the way that one looks. Next up, we've got some Clone Troopers. This is Ahsoka's 501st Legion Clone Trooper. And this one has Yoda on the package there. And I believe these were European exclusives or Canadian exclusives. These two have the multi-language on the back. So you can see there Hasbro Canada for this release. So somebody was telling me, though, that I think the European releases also use these green Yoda cards, but I could be mistaken on that. But this one sold in an auction, 13 bids, 501st Legion Clone Trooper, $130 US dollars plus $10 shipping, so about $140 for this example. And there were a couple of them I found. This one also was available here in the US. It was listed for $180. The packaging looked a little bit cleaner on this one. And the best offer that was accepted on that one was $150 plus $10 shipping. So $140 to $160 will get you this Canadian packaging for the 501st Legion Clone Trooper. This is another cool one, Clone Commander Colt. I like the way that one looks in the package. These included the Galactic Battle Game card. Great looking figure though. I love the colors on that one. That one sold for $180 plus $365 shipping. So any of these clones, even this one was not that great a condition. You can see some card curl on the left-hand side there. But any of these Clone Wars packaging, you can see the big crease too on the back. So very expensive figures, even loose. I found a bunch of loose data points that were out of the packaging, and even those were over $100 pretty regularly. This is another one I had never seen before. But this is the Riot Control Clone Trooper. I like that big shield he comes with like the prod. He's ready to go kettle wrestling. Just prod him right in the butt to get him to go inside the pin. But that's a really cool looking figure. Nice colors, and I love the helmet sculpt on that one. That one sold for $110, free shipping. This is another 2-pack that I don't think I had seen before, or if I did see it previously, I forgot about it. But this is the pre-Cyborg Grievous combined in a 2-pack with General Grievous, Legacy of the Dark Side. So I'm counting this as part of the Clone Wars since it looks like Clone Wars packaging. But very cool to see that one. I wish they would do something else with General Grievous in like a prequel or something like that. I just think he's an interesting character and he doesn't get enough. I'd like to have his story fleshed out a little bit more in live action. I think it would be pretty cool to see that. But anyway, this 2-pack sold over in the UK for 80 pounds, which is $100 US plus shipping. But that's a really cool 2-pack there. Darth Sidious, we got to talk about this figure. I found a bunch of data points for this one before we start digging into the vehicles and kind of packaged items like that. But this Darth Sidious figure has really continues to go up in price. This is CW45, but look how awesome that face sculpt is. It's just kind of a cartoon style to it. There's just an artistic quality to these figures that I think are really underappreciated. I mean, I guess not with this one because he's so expensive, but I do love this card art, and I especially love the figure. I mean, look at that figure. That is just such a cool looking design to it, and really captures the Clone Wars animated style. But this card was not in mint condition by any means. You can see the hang tab has got a crease on it, but that one sold for $197 plus $10 shipping. That's a big number. Here was another one, the same figure that was in better shape, and this one was listed for 200 pounds or $250 US, and the best offer that was accepted was 180 pounds, which is about $225 US, $235 US, somewhere in that ballpark. But this one was in much better shape, and obviously the price reflected that. But the coup de grace was this one, a CAS 90 plus. And this one was the U.S. packaging. The others had kind of multi-language. Although see, this was ages 4 and plus at the top, whereas this one has the multi-language EDOD at the top. So very clearly the U.S. packaging for that one. But that was graded CAS 90 plus, and it was listed for $300 US plus $10 shipping. The best offer that was accepted on that one was $275. So I think that was the best buy right there. That's really, really cool. And there's a special offer on the front of that one. So let's see how they label it. They just label it as CW45 Darth Sidious Hasbro Star Wars. They don't mention the offer sticker or anything like that, but there's so many different kind of subtle kind of variations to the packaging as we just talked about, but that is an awesome figure. All right, it's time to dig into the vehicles, and this is the first one I wanted to start off with because obviously the Mandalorian Assault Transport is on the mind given its prominent role in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. So this has got that, the wings that kind of fold up, as you can see right there on the left-hand side on the back of the box. So this basically captures Bo-Katan's vehicle, more or less. And as a result, the prices really jumped on this one. This one sold in an auction. It was mint in sealed box, although you can see there on the right-hand side, it's got some bad crunch there. And I wonder if Hasbro will re-release this, maybe with some slight paint modifications or fuselage modifications to kind of call it Bo-Katan's starship. But anyway, this one was not mint by any means, and it still sold for $375 plus $14.50 shipping. So let's call that about $390 for that one. So, and again, like this time last year, this was probably half that. It was probably $150, $200 max. So that one has really jumped as a result of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, but very cool to see that one sell. Some other Clone Wars related vehicles. We got the Vulture droid. That's a pretty awesome looking vehicle. And this one's got the classic Clone Wars packaging. That one sold over in the UK for 100 pounds, which is $125 US plus shipping. Very interesting kind of vehicle there. And I think those vulture droids were kind of captured in a lot of the novels. I know that they were talked about in Alphabet Squadron, or not Alphabet, it was the Thrawn trilogy, I think, where the Night Swan, who's like the main villain in the older trilogy by Timothy Zahn, he like bought a bunch of vulture droids on the secondhand market and then reactivated them, and then Thrawn had to kind of deal with that. So that was kind of cool. But those vulture droids are kind of, I think it's the vulture droids. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure the vulture droids are the ones that kind of like, caused a lot of mayhem, and they were kind of automated, and they had their own set kind of attack cycle that Thrawn had to kind of decipher. So anyway, way more information that you want to know on the vulture droids, but that one did sell for $125 US. This is another one I've always wanted. This is the Republic fighter tank, mint and sealed box. That one also sold for £100 or $125 US. I think that was a good buy. That's a really good buy there. That's an awesome looking package for the fighter tank. And then this is another cool one. This is the Corporate Alliance tank droid. Kind of looks like eyes there. Those spotlights on the front. It kind of looks like a transformer. He looks kind of like a nice transformer, doesn't he? Even though he's part of the Corporate Alliance tank droid. But anyway, 125 pounds on that one. That's 156 US dollars. The ARC 170 fighter, I assume that this is the same one that they probably repackaged for the vintage collection for the ARC fighter, but pretty cool looking packaging on that one. The packaging had some wear on the right hand side, some creases to it, but that one sold. Well, I'm sorry, this was not mint in seal box. This one had been opened, so that. But still, it's still sold for 130 pounds, which is 162 US dollars. So I don't know. I think that's the same one that's in the vintage collection. Everything modern kind of just blends together in my mind. So if I say something wrong, please don't chastise me in the comments. I'm just presenting the data for those of you that collect the Clone Wars and have more shelf space than me. I know Keith Guppy is one of them. I had him on my live stream. He's got more Clone Wars figures than I've got vintage Kenner stuff. It's unbelievable. But pretty cool looking packaging on that one. Next up is the Magna Guard fighter. Magna Guard is on the mind right now for me after those unpunched vintage collection figures that sold for big money. $850, $1450 for the unpunched vintage collection Magna Guard. Well, here's a Magna Guard fighter, and that one sold for $128, free shipping in the U.S. So some of these are not terribly expensive to get mint and sealed box. It's just display space, obviously, is the issue. Now we're getting into some big boy items. I love the way this one looks. This is the Republic AV mobile cannon. I mean, they literally Hasbro made all of these fantastic items that had brief appearances in the prequel trilogy during Attack of the Clones and I guess Revenge of the Sith, but man, that is just an awesome looking vehicle. It kind of reminds me of the HAL, like the howitzer gun from the old Hasbro G.I. Joe run. It looks very similar to that. But anyway, that one sold for $150 US plus $10 shipping. Next up is the beautiful Republic gunship. This is a much more simplified version without the kind of the big bubbles on the side, but pretty cool looking. I mean, obviously it's not quite as nice as some of the other kind of iterations of these Republic gunships, since it has almost like a Nerf quality to those missiles that shoot out of the top. So it's just kind of a step down in terms of quality, but it's still a great packaging, don't get me wrong. And that one sold for $300 US plus $24 shipping. This is the big one. This is the one I've always wanted. This one and the next one. These two, I've always just loved the packaging on them, and they've got to be absolutely massive boxes. But this is the AT-TE All-Terrain Tactical Enforcer. Look how awesome that looks. That's a 3 3/4 inch figure. I mean, that just shows you how big this box is. And I love the box on this. It just looks so good. So awesome. Look at that. I know that there's a Costco exclusive that I believe Keith Guppy does have. Speaking of him again, it's got an open window and it shows kind of a battle scene. It's just absolutely massive. And he's got his graded. So I don't know where he keeps all that. Your wife, Keith, your wife is very, very tolerant. I'll just say that. But what an incredible item. That one sold for $300 at an auction. Only one bid on that one. $300 free shipping. So that's a good buy on that one. I've seen that go for quite a bit more money than that one. But here's my other favorite. This is the Clone Turbo Tank. I love the packaging on that. Look at the size of that thing. Man, that is awesome. And I assume this is kind of similar. It's not exact, but it's kind of similar to the Juggernaut that was in Mandalorian Season 2 or 1. I can't remember which season it was. I think it was Season 2. But this is the clone turbo tank. It's very similar to that Juggernaut, but it's got kind of like a swoop bike that launches out of the back of it. But that is so ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to believe that these were actually released at retail. I mean, they're just so big. But a pretty incredible item. That one sold for $500 US plus $50 shipping, so that's $550. I've seen as high as $650 for a mint and sealed box clone turbo tank. So they are not cheap. But anyway, I hadn't talked about the Clone Wars line in a while, and I know a lot of you collect it. I wish I could. I really do, because they are just some incredible packaging and figures. Especially, I think, me personally, the animated figures are where my heart's at. I just don't have the space for it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent data points for the Clone Wars figures. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.